Awesome. So today on the podcast of Diary of Sysadmin, we have the one and only Garth Jones.
How are you, Fabian?
Good, Garth. And you're somebody who I've known for a while now too. I want to say
4 years?
4 years. Yeah,
4 years or so.
yeah. I started at Recast around March or April of 2021, and you were already there. So
Yeah, I literally joined February 1st of that year. So my whole crew came over. So you can actually see the parking sign from the old company, from the old office. So
enhanced soft.
yeah,
So I saw on LinkedIn that you started your career in IT in around 1997. That sound about right?
97. No, it was before 97.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's definitely before
So
97.
so it got archived somewhere. Tell me about when you got started and where and when it was.
So Um, so I used to run a BBS, bulletin board system way back in the day. And there were a lot of Ottawa guys that did that. And they would have beer get togethers and all those things. So yeah, I'd been working a lot of I'd done a lot of computer stuff, but not as a job per se on there. Um, Anyways, one of my BBS buddies took over the commissioner of the Coast Guard, um, his floor. So he needed a junior. So he says, "Hey, Garth, you want to come and work?" And I'm going, "I'm working a restaurant doing pizza and all the rest of that sort of stuff, and you're going to pay me more? Sure. What do I have to do?" It was no brainer. So I was only supposed to be there for like 6 months on contract, and short version of it is I worked for him for about a year, and then I did my own. Um, I took over my own floor throughout the whole thing, and then uh, the whole team kind of got together, and we were responsible for the building. And that was all of Coast Guard in Ottawa here. And then we became part of DFO, which is Fisheries and Oceans. Um, and I went over there to work on SMS at the time. And I think we literally threw up SMS 1.1. And that thing was, it was working well. Although I did go away on holidays that time and came back and we were at SMS 1.2, and there you go. But yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. And eventually I became the guy responsible for all of Ottawa. So, like 4,000 workstations. And eventually moved over to the national position where I was effectively managing, I think it was like 20,000 at the max workstations. So, yeah, unfortunately, that was a lateral, meaning I didn't make any more money, got more responsibility and more headaches. So, yeah.
So you mentioned SMS 1.1. Was SMS 1.0 the beginning of the endpoint management system in in the Microsoft space?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. And do you remember if there was anything before that, or was that kind of the evolution of like endpoint management?
So, um, from my perspective, it is the start of the evolution of
Mm-hmm.
the whole. There may have been other things, but SMS was really, it was quite powerful what it could do. Um, and it gave us a lot of opportunity to manage workstations at scale. So, when we put it in, there were literally three of us who put it in for um, effectively the country. But we started off in Ottawa, of course, because that's where all three of us were. Uh, and it was a very strategic thing because the Coast Guard was on its own. DFO was on its own. They were merged. So they deliberately did not pick what these guys had and deliberately not picked what these guys had and made it so that everybody had to come together. And that's how SMS, because the DFO guys were on banyan vines at the time, and we had risk servers and a custom homegrown thing, and you know it worked for us. But getting into SMS was really quite nice. It really was one of these things where just getting out and organized was really helpful at the end of the day.
And with SMS, was there like was there an objective that you all were trying to achieve? Was it like we're just trying to manage our systems? What was the why behind the SMS at the time?
Application deployment was probably the number one thing, with quickly followed with inventorying. Because like back in those days, people would literally run around with disk CDs or whatever and install the software everywhere. And that's terribly inefficient. It was very costly throughout this whole thing. And what was interesting was the service desk or help desk at the time. They didn't want SMS to succeed because they saw that as taking away their jobs on the whole thing. And what was interesting about that was I gotten to know a lot of the guys in there, but eventually I went in to talk to them and said, look, you're absolutely going to lose your job. You're no longer going to be running around to each workstation and installing the software. And they're all like freaking out on this thing. And I'm going, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you're no longer going to do that. But what you are going to do is you're going to work on projects. You're going to work on this. You're going to do that. You're going to have a more 9-to-5 day. You're going to be able to choose your hours instead of saying you have to come in here. Sure, some of you are going to maintain that. And when they saw that evolution happen, they understood that technically their job as they know it, yeah, it changed, but we never got rid of any staff. If anything, we got more staff. I mean, we started off with 3. We then dropped down to 2 for so what my boss at the time, he went over and took over the national position. My colleague became my boss, and it was just the 2 of us. But then we were so busy we had to backfill. So we went into the help desk and said, "Hey, who wants to come and work with us?" And at the end, when I left for the national position, I think there were 5 of us there. So, and we would literally just pull them out of the help desk. They would come and work on projects, whether it was figuring out how to install McAfee or Office or script something or figure out how to inventory stuff. It all came out of that. It was quite interesting. I mean, we're going through the same thing when we're going through with Intune as well. I mean, everybody's trying to figure out how this is working. We're going to lose people. In reality, vast majority of people, they're going to change from being very reactive to more proactive. They're going to work on projects. They're going to figure out something, and they're going to do all the things that we're not doing. You know.
Yeah, especially, it seems to be kind of a evolutionary thing where it's like, you hear this where it's like, oh, it's going to take my job, but it's like the job in itself might change, yes, but there's also other aspects that will also change, that will need your assistance or your guidance.
Just look at security as a prime example now. Like, back in the day, yeah, security was important, but now it's important. And there's full-time positions for all of that sort of stuff. That really didn't exist, you know? Like, sure, as part of my team, we had to have an awareness day once a year to tell you not to use the same password, the same thing everywhere, and show how quickly we could crack them and all the rest of that sort of stuff. You know, now there's tools, and you've got teams that look at that and they check your code, make sure that, you know, like all sorts of stuff. Sure, the junior positions per se, or the more manual positions, are going to change to more white collar
Hmm.
ish positions, you know, analyzing the firewall logs, analyzing the intrusion detection, reviewing your software, making sure your license is up to date. You pick it. So
And how were you learning things on SMS at that time? Were there blogs? Were there videos? Were you having to travel to places?
uh so no, there really wasn't. Like, sure, there was BBSs, and you could kind of ask questions, but it was a lot of trial by fire. You know, there's you got onto support with Microsoft a lot. You know, there was a guy who worked on the SMS support. His name was Dallas from Dallas, and you know, to this day, I remember him for this thing. We never actually, I don't think we ever met, but yeah, you had to dig into things. You have to read a log. You have to try things out. Um, you know, there was a lot of trial and error, and there were a lot of mistakes. So, let's be honest. So,
Especially being kind of one of the pioneers of the systems. You know, it's right. There's nobody. I'm sure there people were probably running into problems, but maybe they weren't blogging like they are today.
yeah. So, I mean, eventually, what did come up was there was a mailing list. And once you got that mailing list, um, you could ask questions in there and you could learn stuff that way. Which then came into my IT forum. So I'm not sure if you know that Rod Trent was one of the guys who started up my IT forum.
No,
It's like,
no.
oh yeah, my IT forum was all about um, community related, mostly to SMS on that, and it started up around 2001, 2002 timeframe, which is around the same time the original conference for SMS started up. Um, I didn't make the very first one because that was in Florida someplace, but I did make the second one, which was in uh, Vegas at the Flamingo. Um, Surprisingly, as a government employee, I was allowed to go down to Vegas and go to that. But my wife, who you'll meet someday, I swear you'll meet her someday, um, says that it was a great experience for me because when I went down there, you know, it's like, what do you expect? Very shy, meek, and all this stuff. And I come back exuberant saying there's all these people who do exactly the same thing that I do, that I had a binder of stuff that I wanted to do. And, you know, it was probably like 2 years worth of work in this binder on them. And I came back and implemented almost all of the stuff or what I could on which was which was funny because then I applied to go the following year, and again they said yes. I'm going, this is great, and again, I came back, but instead of 2 years, I probably had 18 months. So, I still had like a good amount of work to do. Anyways, this was rinse and repeat, um, up until 2006. By that time, when I come back from the conference, it'd only be a few months, maybe a few weeks worth of stuff. But by that time, I knew how to do all the inventory any way I wanted to do it. I knew how to do the reporting any way I wanted to do it. I was working at a user group, so I was presenting at user groups and all the rest of that stuff. It was around that time that I started writing or wanted to start writing my book, the reporting book on that. And I eventually just left the government at that point in time, and that's the birth of Enhansoft, is understanding that companies around the world wanted to know more about inventory and reporting, and particularly around the warranty of their computers is where I spend a lot of time on that sort of stuff. Yeah, and that 2006 year was the exact same year that I decided that I was going to do a personal goal. And that personal goal was to blog one blog a day for a year.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so I was going for content, not quality.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but at that point in time, I was doing things like the user group. In the user group, we were doing our study groups. And as part of the study groups, I would come up. The way we were doing the study group is that we'd take 20 of us, we'd go off to an exam center. Every Monday, we would study for 2-3 hours. But as a group, there would be 20 of us, and we were broken into 4 groups, or 5 groups, and then 4 of us would come up with questions, a summary of the chapter that we were reading, that sort of stuff. But then I decided to post those to my blog. So my question on Monday would be blah 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 blah. What command will clear the IP cache on a computer? And then, so that was the entire blog post, was just that one question. And then on Friday, I would post the answer, which, you're talking, uh, 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 a few characters
Mhm.
on the whole thing. Um, so I did a bit of that, but yeah, it was 1 year. I did the 1 full year, didn't miss anything. I learned how to pre-post blogs. I did a ton of that stuff, and at the end of the year, I said I'll never do that again. So
What did you take away from that?
that writing one blog a day, even with some cheap content, is not hard and not easy. It's just because your biggest problem that you have when you're writing a blog is, what topic do you want to speak about? Like, you want something that is interesting to yourself, but you hope is interesting to others on the whole thing. So there was a lot of that on the blog. But yeah, it was right around that time. I think it was 9 months in that's when I got my MVP status on the whole thing. So,
Your name was everywhere.
well, yeah. The mailing list helped a lot, because by that time, people would say, "How do I get this? I need a report that does blank, blank, blank." And I knew the database so well that I could whip it off in a few minutes type idea, and then back in the day, you would always have your signature block with your telephone number, and it was my government one. So my phone would occasionally ring from people that are going, "Who are you?" So, but yeah, so it was The early days of Enhansoft were fun. Lots of work.
And when you started in Handsoft, did you, because you were trying to make a reporting business, I'm assuming, and were you like, working with customers but also blogging on the side?
I was to pay the bills. I was consulting during the
Mm-hmm.
day. I was
Ah, okay.
blogging at night, coding at night. Yeah, I was coding and enhance some of the enhance. Some of my code still exists today at Recast, despite Suzanne's um, trying to get rid of it.
So Enhanceoft initially started as a consulting business.
I was using the consulting business to pay the bills. Um, so when I first started Enhance Off, I was coding most days throughout that, but I realized that it was a bit of a slog on it. But I could do it because my wife had her job and all the rest of that stuff. And financially, we were in good space. Um, but I worked with a partner in the States, and it was coming, but not fast enough. And I needed another developer. And that's where I hired Suzanne. She actually knew my wife. And the funny part of that story is um, Suzanne came to the house to drop off something. I think it was candles, party like candles or something like that. And I asked her if she was doing coding and stuff like that. And she said yes. But she just had her second child. I think it was her second one. And she was looking for a new job. So I said, here you go. And she took over the code, and I've been working with her ever since.
Wow,
So,
wow.
um,
And how did you transition, or how did you kind of pick up the skill of, you know, coming from that IT admin background to then, essentially coding? Was it because the SQL databases were, or yeah, tell me about that.
so I technically I went to school for I forget if it was actually coding or not, but part of it was coding. So I have done my stint in Fortran. I've done my stint in Pascal. I've done my stint in C, not C sharp, not C plus plus, but C. I did some assembly language. Um, Prior to that, I'd done various basic languages on different um, operating systems. So I started off on CPM back in the day. Um, so I technically started off with coding and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Um, so coding wasn't. I knew what I wanted, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you want is half the battle. It was then just trying. I needed somebody to take over and work on it more full time and who had more skills, because by that time I'd been with the government 16 years. So, uh, you know, it'd been a solid number of years since I'd done some serious coding. So, uh, uh, it helped to bring Suzanne, and um, I think she finished off our monitor program first, which was all about getting you the inventory of your computer monitors. And then I think we morphed into the reporting one, which then morphed into the warranty one. Yeah. So there's been a lot over the years from that perspective on it. So
Did you kind of practice programming like just here and there while you were, in the government, or was it something you kind of essentially picked up back up?
So in the government, it was more packaging. So um, there was something called SMS installer. So I did a lot in that for a while, which is a pseudo language, I guess. Um, but it I didn't do a lot of coding there. I did some VB coding, VB script coding, only because we needed it for our packaging and stuff like that. But yeah, so
So tell me when you first started speaking at events like MMS, or what was it, IT Forum, where you got started speaking?
the first one was MMS, but that was the Microsoft Management Summit. That one was in Vegas, and I think that was 2007, 2008. I forget which one it was. Um, so I'd submitted, because you have to submit two presentations. They won't take you if you don't submit two. So I submitted two or three presentations, and the one the big one that I got was reporting with um, SCCM at that time. I believe it was. Maybe it was Config Man by that time. But anyways, um, but I hadn't done a lot of big scale presentations, like a user group, 20 people and all this that stuff. And I was still very nervous about that stuff, even for 20 people. So I go to Vegas, I'm a speaker, blah, blah, blah. And my first presentation is the first one after the keynote. So I go into the room, and by that time, MMS had like 2,000 people or something
Wow.
like that. So it was large, and I was in a room that was like 400 people, and it was packed to the rafters. Like they were literally not letting anybody else into this thing. And all I can remember is I'm starting off this, and I'm nervous as all sin. I'm just I'm going, oh my god, I'm going to fail. But I just started my presentation, and the tip that I got is make sure you practice, make sure you practice, make sure you practice. So I practiced at home tons and tons of times, and so I'm giving this presentation, and we're going on, and people are asking questions, and I'm just answering questions. And it was probably about 15 minutes into it that I suddenly went, this isn't so bad. Nobody's stumping me. I'm not looking like a fool in front of
Mhm.
this huge room full of people. And I think it went well. I think I relayed the content well to everybody. Um, so yeah, that was my first one, and it was like, oh my god, I don't wish that and I was presenting by myself at the new
Wow.
MMS, the one in Minnesota there. At least there's two presenters, and they always like to have somebody who's presented before with somebody who's
Getting
potentially
started.
just
Mhm.
started out. So if they trip up, the other one can do it. I was alone on the thing, completely on the whole scenario, and it it was it was scary. Let's just put it that way. But I think I did well on it. There is my second presentation was again at that one, and I had the very last presentation on Friday. So Friday ended at noon on the whole thing, and there's a picture that Rod Trent likes to have, um, that shows the room very. He targeted it just appropriately to show there was almost nobody in the room. Like, it's also 10 minutes before the presentation starts, 15 minutes before, and there's like three people in the whole thing. It's like, Rod, come on, you're killing me here. Uh, but yeah, I bookended that conference, and since that I tried to present it just about everyone, MMS or IT dev or uh, you name it. There, I've tried to present mostly because I think there's a lot of things that I can help people with. But the other thing is, I also find they learn things as well. Um, when I'm doing my blogs or doing my thing, half the reason I'm doing it is because I've learned it and I want others to learn it better, or what's being explained by others is not well explained. I don't know how to say it. I don't always like to do the step by step guides, but I will. Now all my blogs, when I do them, they almost always have a video attached to them as well, so you can see what's going on. I've written the 3 books now, or partially 3 books. I've done that reporting one for Configuration Manager now. I've done the couple of chapters in the big reporting or the big Configuration Manager book, and then the Power BI Intune ebook. So, you know,
T- Tell me about that process. How is it like writing a book? Books.
so the first book I wrote, and then I needed help on it. So I contacted a buddy of mine who was also really good at reporting, and we finished it. And then uh, I was trying to figure out how to self publish it. So I was asking another friend, Carrie, how she's published all these books. And she's going, look, it's why don't I set you up with my publisher?
Hmm.
So we went and talked to the publisher. They gave us a book deal on there. You are never going to get rich. I can tell you that by writing a book. Um, so, anyways, the thing is they got very set guidelines on how things were. So, Dan and myself had to effectively rewrite the book, redo all of the screenshots to their specifications. It was crazy from that perspective. And then Carrie went through and edited the book from top to bottom on it. Um, and here you go. Um, but that really wasn't my first foray into writing, ironically. My first foray into writing was the Configuration Manager 2007 course, the official Microsoft course. There were 3 of us who were chosen to write that course. I ended up, one guy had to drop out, personal reasons. So I ended up taking over what he had done, and which basically meant that I wrote uh, almost 2/3 of that official course on this thing. And Wally would help tech edit it to make
Hmm.
sure that what I said was right, and all this that stuff. So when people say, why do you always call it config man instead of SCCM? It's like, well, because Wally kept on telling me it has to be called config man because that's the official acronym versus SCCM is not. Um, but yeah, I did that one. Which was a great learning, a huge learning experience. It really reinforced what you knew about config man. You got to get it very tight. You have people who go through and literally do every step that you say, and if they can't figure it out, they send it back to you, and you got to get it right. And they've got particular ways that they have to bold and italicize and all sorts of stuff on there. So the rules are crazy, but they make sense when you see them on the official thing. So
Did you go out to Microsoft's campus or did you do it remotely? How was that process?
I was all remote. It was all at my house. So I would download everything, put it into my own server lab, run everything, validate everything, and then I would send it back to. Ironically, I think he lives in Regina now, so outside of in Saskatchewan there. Um, but yeah, it was all remote. Yeah, I did that for 2007. For 2012, people can blame me along with a whole pile of other people I know for writing the exam. We actually wrote the questions for the exam. That was a lot of fun. They brought us all into Montreal, ironically, and we spent a week there and wrote all the exam questions, and you know.
And how was Wally involved in this? I've heard he was a Microsoft person, but how was he connected to Configment?
So Wally was a part of the product team. He was he looked after the MVPs,
Mm-hmm.
looked after reviewing technical content. He would be the guy that if there was a TechNet or something like that, he would do a lot of the webinars. He would do a lot of the just labs and stuff like that on it. So he was very technical from that perspective. Um, and he was the guy that everybody knew because he would do most of the webinars and stuff like that. And he would explain all the content. And you'd see him at all the conferences and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, he got to know all of us on that.
And were there any other people during that time, like 2007, as you're writing a book, that are still in the endpoint space that you see today?
Most
Maybe like some speakers, like
almost
any.
all the speakers at MMS or whatever. I mean, you've got Brian Mason, you got Greg Ramsey, you got April Cook, you've got um, like there's so many of them that have been around for so long. Rod Trent, Mike Niehaus. We keep seeing each other at all these events, and it's been like years and years on that. And then we've got new ones. And I say new, like Brian Dam, I've known for what 5-6 years. I mean, you've got Mark Godfrey, you've got Matt. Uh, you know, a lot of these guys, you get to know them online, and then you see them at the conference and sit down, have drinks, find out what's going on in their lives. You know.
And I think that's what makes some of these events pretty special because the technology part is amazing, but like after hours, you get to talk to them as a human being, right? It's outside of the ones and zeros.
Yeah. Well, this is where uh, MMS, whether it is the one in Minneapolis or the one in Nashville this fall, or Workplace Ninja in Switzerland, as an example. What's great about them is they're specifically capped at a couple hundred. MMS is like 700 people. So what that means is as you're walking around, you can see a speaker, sit down and talk to them. I've been at Ignite. It's you and 30,000 of your closest friends. You're not finding anybody there to talk to. And if they are, they're not in the same discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be walking around and somebody's like SQL, the next guy's Exchange, and you're going, okay, well, this is great, or SharePoint, or whatever. Um, but when the conferences are focused like that, you get to see the people, and most of them are really willing to sit down and like crack open your laptop and go, "Oh, what's your problem? Here, let's fix that for you."
Mm-hmm.
And um, you know, they all want to help you on that. So I strongly encourage people to go off to one of the conferences. If I've paid out of my own pocket to go to some of these things, the flight, hotel, the conference itself. Um, and I'm glad I did. I would do it again. Um, so,
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that you see the same people, like Michael Niehaus, Rod Trent. It kind of it's like you kind of have been growing up with them in a
yeah,
sense.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you get to know also not only the speakers, but you also get to learn the Microsoft people as well. And, you know, going to an event like MMS, it gives you the opportunity to have these conversations, and they're really willing to help you. And, you can eventually just send them random emails and say, hey, can you answer this for me? Um, you know, the one of the former MVP leads, Kathy, she's no longer a config man MVP, but I still see her and we still chat every so often. Even though she's not going to the conferences, we just do Facebook, video chats and whatever, and you know, just say hi and all that sort of stuff. Um, and it's the same thing with the sponsors. You get to see the same sponsors over and over again, and you get to know their team and say hi to them as well. So,
Yeah, it it's a niche group, but it's a solid group of people. That's for
oh yeah,
sure.
very solid, very solid.
So, having been at Enhancesoft, what were some of your I guess what were some challenges, but also some very rewarding moments at Enhancesoft?
Uh, Challenges. Well, we bootstrapped. So when I said I did consulting, um, I literally was doing consulting so I could pay Suzanne and others their salary. Uh, so that was a choice that I made. It was a long choice. What I mean by that is uh, I'd spend my weeks doing consulting. I'd spend my evenings doing blogs or accounting or marketing or whatever it was. So I mean that was a challenge, but it all grew. So, um, what was some of the successes on there was I think we produced some very solid products. I'm very happy with what we had produced. I was also very happy when um, we got to a point where the bank had enough money in it that if I didn't make a single sale, that we would have like 3 months. So it's like, great. So there's a lot of pressure off on that when you do that. Um, I think it was successful when I sold to Recast. You know, it was validation of what
Mhm.
we had done on all that. You know, there's challenges with all of this as well. Like, don't get me wrong, because I would spend all my weekends with doing blogs and marketing and HR and payroll and all the rest of that fun stuff, I've come to Recast, and now I suddenly have my weekends free and evenings free. And it's like, so what am I supposed to do with my time here? So, uh, I'm still working on that a little bit, but um, hey,
Yeah, yeah, no, no. Um, and I know we were talking off air before. I wanted to mention you're speaking at user group coming up in Toronto.
yeah. So
How did that
next,
come? How did that come about? And when is it?
so it's Workplace Ninja Canada. They're doing an event in Toronto on the 13th of June, so next week, next Friday. People have to register before Wednesday. I believe Wednesday is the cutoff date for the whole thing. But it came up because I found out at one of the conferences I go to, the MVP Summit, that there's a Workplace Ninja Canada, and I went, really? Who's running this? And I found out and sent them a note saying, what can I do to help? Um, and that's when they said, hey, do you want to come to Toronto and present? And I said, sure, I can do that. So I'm flying out next Thursday, and I'll be there on Friday at 8 a.m. I'll give a presentation and I'll fly back.
What are you presenting on?
I'm going to present on Intune reporting. Uh, Basically, I'll do a live demo of some of the things from the ebook on how to do Intune and Power BI.
And in the reporting realm, how did you kind of end up becoming the reporting person? And why was reporting intriguing to you?
So I fell into the reporting and the inventory part of that. So back in the SMS days, what we ended up doing is there'd be this spreadsheet that my director would look at and try to figure out, and he would send it off to other departments for cost recovery. And it'd be like a month, 2 month process for him and people doing this whole thing. So when we got SMS in play, he said something to me, and I said, "Oh, well, just give me a few minutes, and I'll get that for you." And he's like, "Sure, sure." It's like, who's this junior guy on here? This was back in the day when I was still scared of him on the whole thing. But so I went back to my desk after the meeting and I sent him an email or pulled the query and said, "Here you go. Is this what you're looking for?" And, you know, he comes walking into my office. I'm going, "Your office is on the other side of the thing here. Like, what do you know?" And he's going, how long did this take you to produce? And I said, "Well, 5 minutes, And you go, "Can you add this?" And I went, "Sure." And I'm adding this into it and says, "Here you go." And he's looking at the whole thing. It's like, "Well, okay, this says the code of the department. Can you actually give me the department name?" And I went, "Sure." And then he eventually asked a question, and I went, "I have to think about that for a little bit." So he was like elated. He was like, "Even if you don't get it, I don't care. Here you go." So he wandered off, and my boss, who was overhearing this, is going, "Yeah, take whatever time you want to solve that." The short version of it is I learned how to write SQL queries, and it was all because somebody higher up wanted something.
Mhm.
Um, it was, it literally started off with a cost recovery, and the reports I generated, they're going, "These are fantastic. They're better than what we can do by hand," and all the rest of that. And there are more computers on here. It's more accurate because they would find computers that people would have 2 or 3 computers. So they were going, "We get to charge you twice for all this stuff." Uh, but yeah, I mean, I would do that. And then the next one was, "Tell me how many copies of, say, Corel Draw we had, or WinZip, and how many copies of this we'd have, or who installed this application for us, or, which computers." Y2K was in that time frame. And it was how many computers aren't compliant that we're going to have to do something about. And this same director, when I came up with the whole process. So there was an official tool, and I figured out how to deploy it with Configuration Manager. So the help desk didn't have to walk around to every computer and put stupid stickers on that they were compliant and all this stuff. So I did it. I'll send it out through SMS, and then I got the results back 2, 3 weeks later, and I sent him the reports. And it says, okay, here's the number of computers that are non-compliant. And he looked at the list and he says, there are 20 computers on this list in all of Ottawa out of 3,000. Or he says, this can't be right. Our budget, is something like 400 or 500 computers on this thing. Like, he's not believing the results. So my boss and I literally
Oh,
went around to all 20 on that list and confirmed that they all were not compliant. And more importantly, he picked another random 20 and says, I want you to go physically to each one of these things and do it. So, we were taking taxis to other buildings and
oh,
but at the end, we came back and said, the results are 100% correct. And he's going, you've just saved us like tens of thousands of dollars, like I'm going to just outright replace all these computers because every last one of them failed with, oh, you have to upgrade the BIOS on it. And he's going, forget it. I'm just going to replace them all.
yeah.
Like who cares? So yeah, so doing things like that, it was very rewarding on things that you could see that you were really helping out, reducing the workload on people. Or we would get software and we'd have to upgrade it, and sometimes you had to hold somebody's hand, and it's like, here's everybody who's got this software. So the service desk would send them a note and say, by the way, you've got the software, you're going to have to upgrade, and by the way, it's going to reboot, and blah blah. So all the proactive things on there, it was great from that perspective. So
You mentioned Y2K in there.
yeah,
How was life and technology around that time?
um, it was a lot of fun. Um, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hours. It was that particular year. Um, I think I was scheduled originally. I was scheduled to come in 11 o'clock at night and stay till 8 o'clock in the morning or some crazy thing like that. And I said, it makes no sense. And my director's going, why does it make no sense? And I said, because all computers run on GMT, which means if there's a problem, it's going to happen at 7 o'clock at night. And he suddenly goes, okay, you're in at 6 for this whole thing. And I think I was done by 2 in the morning, but nothing happened. Like, it was like, something's going to happen. And then nothing happened. And then everybody went, well, see, we were prepared. And I'm like, well, yeah, technically you're right.
What was supposed to happen?
Well, the world was supposed to burn, like everything was supposed to fall apart. Planes were supposed to fall out of the sky. I mean, you know, uh,
Where what did they why were you in there? Was it to, you know, be on top of the computers so they don't break? What was the reason you all were there?
so I was there to help confirm that nothing was wrong on things. Um, and when nothing happened at 7 o'clock at night, because I was in Eastern time zone, I'm like, okay, so nothing's going to happen, and we wait around to midnight. I mean, we were literally playing cards and stuff like that. We were trying to figure out what to do because like nothing happened. So okay, but everybody wanted to keep us until midnight just in case there's something happened at midnight. But it was, do we have to restore things? Do we have to whatever? I mean, effectively, nothing happened because everybody did their jobs in advance, and so
Oh man. Um I did want to ask you, you know, is there anything at the moment, technology wise or outside technology, that excites you? Um, Maybe for today or maybe in the next 5 years.
What excites me? Wow, that's an interesting question. So, what I find myself doing is I'm finding myself watch a fair number of TV slash movies. Uh, I'm also enjoying my whiskey a little bit to the point where I started looking into a whiskey certification. So there's a couple of them, and I was looking at doing one of those. So I suspect that will be on there. Um, I'm doing some things around with Home Assistant, just getting started. But the, everything, like I really don't know what's going on. Uh, uh, like from a day to day, we moved into this house 2 years ago, so I'm still trying to get the place organized and all the fun stuff that goes around with that. And you know, it's just life is what really comes down to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is type of thing.
So in that realm, um, I like to know like who you are beyond the keyboard. So you mentioned whiskey.
Yeah.
Is there like, are you trying to understand the whiskey more? Are you trying to understand? Are you trying to be like, what do you?
So I like a bourbon style, uh, or bourbon style, so a corn whiskey. Um, what I've been finding is I've been trying out a lot of different whiskeys to see how much I like them. Uh, you know, there's one out in Okanagan that I really like. There's one here in like half an hour, 45 minutes up the road from here that I really like. Fun fact about the one up the road, they have an investment thing where you can invest in whiskey barrels. So
Wow.
I did. I did that much to my wife's chagrin. Uh, she can't believe that I invested in a whiskey barrel, but I did. Uh, so 3 years from now, it should come due, and not only will they pay me interest on it, but they're supposed to send me a couple of bottles to from the barrel to try. It's like okay, so you know,
Not a bad investment.
yeah. Well, it's it, yeah. I mean, you got to take care of like, as an American, you got to take care of your 401k up in Canada. You take care of your RSP, that sort of thing. Hey, what the heck? It was one of those crazy things. It's like what the heck? So,
So what do you like to do to get your head out of technology? Although you're pretty engraved into it, or do you like to travel? Do you like to go on walks?
for the daily get the head out, I do a daily walk with my wife. Half an hour. We started that during COVID. We go. It doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, sleeting. It doesn't matter. We do it. It doesn't matter if it's a sandy beach or if we're on holidays. We still do that half hour walk. So we do that. I'm finding myself getting more into hockey. It doesn't matter if it is the NHL or the PWHL. We tend to watch both. Um, and then, as I said, I try to do a movie or a TV show, and that really runs the gambit of everything from Scooby Doo to Hallmark movies. So, it's more what's the mood of the day on things. Um, but yeah, that's more the daily, weekly thing for the um, more bigger things, uh, I'll tend to take a holiday and the holiday of like going to Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
or um, I've applied to be a speaker at Workplace Ninja. Crossing my fingers. But if I do, then that's in Switzerland. So 2 years ago we did 3 years ago we did that, and we went off to Oktoberfest afterwards, which was
Nice.
great. Oh my god! If you ever have the opportunity, I strongly encourage you go to Workplace Ninja and then take the week after and go off to uh, uh, Oktoberfest. It was great on that. But we would go someplace else, go visit someplace in Europe that we've never been to, whether that's Scotland or Wales or Greece, Italy. It doesn't really matter. So something different. Because like what I find myself more and more is trying to do something different. So
Mhm.
whether it's going to a local speakeasy or one of those gastronomy restaurants,
Mhm.
like 12 course things uh, or it's going to a restaurant you've never tried before. Could be a little diner or whatever. We found some interesting, like I told you, I moved in here 2 years ago. There's a breakfast diner that is like 10-minute walk for me here. And the breakfast is like $12. It's like cheap, 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 cheap. I mean, that's for pancakes and sort of stuff. You're going, so trying something different is on the whole thing. And you try it once and you go, I like it, I hate it, or I could take it or leave it. So we found some of our best restaurants that we like by doing that. Um, uh, a matter of fact, I'm not sure you can find it, but the show Dinner Dives and
Dinner drives and the triple D with Guy
yeah,
Fieri.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
There's an episode that you'll find me on.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he came up and did an episode, at least one episode here in Ottawa. And one of our favorite restaurants was on that place called the Foolish Chicken. And yeah, I'm one of the patrons in that episode of that. I unfortunately didn't get to meet him, but you know,
Did you know that was gonna happen?
yeah, yeah, yeah. They specially invited select customers. So myself and my wife were there, and so it's always kind of interesting because like one of the guys, one of the regulars at the conferences, he was saying he was watching the show and he's going, "What? I know that voice." And suddenly rerun the PVR and goes, "Oh my god, that's Garth!" And he sent me a note right away. So I think I'm watching this right now, and I see you. Like so, yeah. So, like I said, trying to do different things. Actually, there's even a movie that I'm in, like a full length movie. I'm in there.
What?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I technically even have an IMDb profile too. There you go.
do, do you want to share the movie or do let people guess?
The problem is it's got a long title, and it means I have to go look it up. Is really what it is.
Garth in his previous moving days.
Yeah, no. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so uh, The Adventures of Major Miracle is the name of that film. And I mean, if you actually go look, I'm also technically a producer on two different movies as well, because it was about the experience. So you know, but that one you actually see me in as I think I'm labeled as the angry dad or perturbed dad or something like that. Uh, because that was the the role I got out of this whole thing. Uh, oh, enthusiastic father. Enthusiastic father is what it says here. I mean, it was a cute film. Uh, you can stream it on last time I looked, it was on Amazon Prime in the States. So you can watch it. If you're so inclined, you can take the video clip and slip it in at the end. In there, but yeah. So
Awesome. Awesome, Garth. I know you have to go, but I do want to end it with one more question. What kind of advice do you have for the next gen of IT pros?
that's a long loaded question. So the
Yep.
short version of that is don't give up. I encourage you to learn every day. I say that I'm going to get out of this field when I stop learning things. And, it hasn't happened yet. But I also encourage people to do things like go off and get certification. People will say, certifications aren't worth it. I disagree with that. And I say that because I believe you learn one thing out of that exam. And by taking that exam, you've done two things. First off, you've learned one thing while you study for it. You found out something you never really knew. And then the second thing that you get out of it is you prove to yourself that you can do it throughout the whole thing. I encourage you to take time, look at your um, environment, your career, think of what thinks is good for you. Go seek out somebody that you think can be a mentor for you. Spend money on yourself. What I mean by that is you can't see it, but on the other side of this wall over here, back behind that sign, I have a half rack which has a complete server in it on here. Over here is where my internet connections are, and I've got Ubiquity firewalls and stuff like that. You know, I've got the technology that I can duplicate stuff that I need to get better. Um, so when you say get away from technology, I find that tough because a lot of times at night, not only will I be watching the hockey, but I'll be half surfing, trying to answer a question. Um, and that question can be is like, how do I solve this problem? And, uh, you know, I'll send myself notes to go look when I'm back at my desk. Like technically, this is my home office, but I actually go into an office every day uh, and check out things. Um, so for somebody young, just learn, have a positive attitude, um, figure out what's best for them. Don't get into IT for the sake of thinking you're going to get rich. You're not going to get rich. Uh, Make sure that you enjoy your job. If you don't enjoy your job, go find another job. Because life is not about, uh, it's not necessarily about money. It's not necessarily about, if you hate your job, what are you doing at it? You're staying there to pay the bills. Those will take care of themselves at some point in time. But yeah, do that and, just enjoy life.